Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. When you were younger, you probably played dominoes at some point in your life. I kind of outgrew them, maybe you did too. But today we're going to check out a different domino game. It's called the Mexican Train. Now the version I have is the to-go version, which is a little bit of a travel version, and it also has the numbers written on the dominoes, which is really cool. So in Mexican Train, essentially it's a souped up version of dominoes. It's for ages 6+. It's from 2 to 8 players, at least this version is. And it's actually a lot of fun. So let's check it out, take out the components, show you how it's played, and I'll give you my final thoughts. All aboard the Mexican Train! Okay, to set up Mexican Train, I found this little guide here that helps you. I have a full-size Mexican Train that goes, all the way up to, I believe, 12s. And so here it says if you have 2 players, remove all the dominoes above 7. Each player gets 10 dominoes, and there's 16 left over in what they call the boneyard. And it scales down for 3, 4, 5, or 6 players. You remove certain dominoes above, so that way that the games don't take too long. You're always taking 10 dominoes to start, and then the leftovers are getting in the boneyard. So this is a cool little sheet that I actually printed off the internet somewhere. It didn't come with my rules, but it was something that I found that's really useful for setting up a game of Mexican Train for certain players' amounts. So let's now take a look at what it looks like once we've taken our 10 dominoes and the board set up. Okay, in Mexican Train, you play a series of rounds, and at the end of those series of rounds, the player that has the least amount of points wins. So in this case, we have a starting round of 7, because there's 2 players playing. If you remember, with 2 players, the highest dominoes is 7. You start with the double 7 in the middle, and each player has started with 10 dominoes. Now these would typically be up and facing you like this, where other players could not see them. But for the sake of the video and showing you how to play, I'm leaving them on the table. Now, the first thing you do on your turn is to build your first train. And building your first train is the only time you get to lay well, it's one of the only times you get to play more than 1 domino on your turn. Now, it's just like dominoes in the sense where I have to put a 7 here to match this. Now, I have a 7 and a 4. I have a 7 and a 1. Maybe I put the 7 and 4. Now, this is the first time that you get to play more than 1 domino at a time. So a lot of times what you do is you kind of build your train here off to the side, try to figure out what combination can I use to get me the most dominoes played. Let's see, a double 0. Then I could do like a 0, 1, and then maybe even a double 1, and then like a 1, 3, and then maybe a 3, 0. Okay, so then I would sort of build my train on my own here when I'm ready, and I have my final train for my first train. I'm essentially going to, doubles always lay sideways, and as you can see, 7, 4, this matches the 7, the 4 matches the 4, the double 0 matches the 0 matches the 0, the double 1s match the 1, the 1 matches the 1, and 3 matches 0. So I only have 3 dominoes left. That would be a pretty good first train right there. Now, when we're doing this, now it would be the other player's turn, and they would build a train. And let's say they built a train, and all they had was 1 domino they could put down, a 7 and a 3. Now, on my next turn, I have a few choices to make. Let's see, can I play on my 0? No. Can I play here? Here is the Mexican Train. There's always a Mexican Train, which basically means that anybody can play on it. And when you do that, you put the train there, and that signifies that anybody can play on this little route here. So I'm going to place a 7 here, and this signifies anybody can go there. So now the other player can now play on their own line, or any line that has a train on it. And so, as they have tiles in their hands, they're going to try to play a 3 or a 1. That's all they can really play right now. If they can't play at all, they have to put a train on theirs, which means they've opened their lane up for other people to play on it. Now, they must also take another tile from the boneyard, and now their train is open. So when it's my turn, since these 2 trains are now open, mine is always open for me. So I can either play a 0, a 1, or a 3. So here comes the next point here. Let's say I had a couple other tiles here. for this instance, there's one other special rule here with the doubles. When you throw a double down, you have to throw one more domino down, but it does not always have to be here. So in this case, I have a 3, and so I would throw a double down and throw a 3, and then that would be my turn. But one way to kind of screw your neighbor in this game is you throw a double down, and then let's say I had another one that was like this. I could throw the double. You have to throw one more domino after double, but it doesn't have to be on the double. So I throw the double 3, and I put the 1 here, and it kind of screws everybody in the game because nobody can now move until this double is closed. So now it goes around to all the people. They try to go. If they can't go on this double 3, they got to draw. The next person, if they can't go here, they've got to draw, and they would have to put a train on theirs because they couldn't go. So essentially the rules are that anytime you can't make a play at all on your turn, a train goes down your line, which opens it up for everybody else. If in subsequent turns you're able to play on your own, let's assume I'm this player now. If you're able to play a domino on yours, you get to now take your train off, and now it's closed. Nobody else can play there. The Mexican train is always open for the whole game, but trains for people essentially they're open if you can't play at all on a turn, and it's closed when you play on your own line. So again, if this person can't play at all, they get a train, but if on their turn they play something on their train, they get it off and nobody else can play there. So you're constantly trying to make sure that you leave your train closed so nobody else can play on it, and you're trying to, just put as many dominoes as you can. Now let's say somebody goes out and they place their last domino and you're out. Everybody else then counts up the points on their dominoes, and so they add up all the numbers and all their dominoes, and that's the score for that round. And so you're keeping score. You want the least amount of points. The person who went out gets 0 points, of course, because they have no dominoes in their hand. And the way you start the next round is, see how it starts with a 7-7 because we started with 2 players. To start the next round, you would start 1 less. So essentially, you would flip over all the dominoes in the bone, and this is called the boneyard. And then what would happen is you would look for the 6-6. So you started with 7. This would get cleared out. All these dominoes would get shuffled, and then you do a 6-6. And so on and so forth. And you keep playing until that goes all the way down to 1 or to 0, double 0, and that's the last round. And there you have Mexican Train. So, I've played this in many different situations. I think it's a very good light party / family game. I've gotten around with some of my nieces and nephews, and with some older people. We've all gotten together and play it. It's pretty easy to teach. They usually learn it within 5 minutes. And it's a lot of fun. It's kind of intuitive where you have the dominoes and you're trying to get rid of them and put them down in the right spots. Then you got that Mexican train that everybody can play on, so it keeps the game moving. There's a couple things I don't like about the game. Kind of like the way that the doubles work when you get stuck with the doubles and everybody gets stuck and everybody has to keep drawing. I know that actually can be a positive part of the game. And if you're playing with a lot of experienced players, actually throwing that double down and then throwing somewhere else so it screws everybody else out because they have to play on that double. If you're playing with a lot of experienced players, that's actually almost the most fun part of the game. But if those type of tactics get played with people that have not played the game before, it tends to bog down and kind of make people mad. It's kind of direct confrontation, and that can be it. That's about all I have negative to say is at the beginning, if you're using experienced tactics with beginners, and I guess that goes to say with any game, if you're using advanced tactics in the beginning of a game that nobody knows how to play, you're going to make people upset. So if you play it just nicely and you kind of help people go, it's a lot of fun. And the way that the rounds count down with the domino that starts it, and the way it scales perfectly from 2 to 8. Removing certain domino levels that you're not going to use if it's just a 2-player game and vice versa. So all in all, I've had a great time playing this game. I'd say it's definitely a good buy. It's usually pretty cheap, under $20, and it can give you a lot of fun in the light family and party game.